Welcome to Afterthoughts. This is our recommend or refute. I'm going to have to time those in the future and see how long I carry it out. This is one of our episodes where we talk about something we recently watched and let you know if it's good or not good, or if we're on the fence and can't commit for some reason, John. I'm your host, Ryan King, and with me, our regulars, we have John Garcia.
Hey, Ryan, I'm happy to be here. You know, I'm feeling really good. Maybe it's the scotch talking, or...
Oh, it's definitely the scotch talking.
Always.
We needed a few to get through our discussion of the astrologer.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We're not even fake drunk right now.
Yeah.
I don't know that any human being can discuss the astrologer sober. I don't think it's possible. It's like sneezing with your eyes open. It's just not possible.
Yeah, you just can't do it. Yeah. And yes, and this voice you're hearing now is our Michael Dixon.
Our Michael Dixon. Oh,
Our
wow.
Michael Dixon.
We now own you contractually through perpetuity.
I don't remember signing anything that stated that. But it's like the Apple terms and conditions. I just accept them. So
yeah, you know what you clicked when you joined Afterthoughts. We'll start, Dixon. What did you watch this week?
Okay. So this week I had the opportunity to see one of my favorite batshit crazy action films on the big screen at the historic Paramount Theater in downtown Austin on 35 millimeter. And John's favorite movie club that he's constantly evangelizing, the Hyperreal Film Club, put on this screening, and John refused to go with me. So I went by myself and I saw Face Off on 35 millimeter in a massive theater, and it was super fun.
I've been chasing this guy ever since I joined the force.
I'm about to unleash the biblical plague hell deserves.
He has no conscience, and he shows no remorse.
You're not having any fun, are you, Sean? Try terrorism for hire. We'll blow some stuff up.
There's a felony list a mile long: murder, arson, kidnapping, terrorism, you name it. For years, I've been watching him, tracking him, studying his every move. I know his every mannerism.
Well, I think you better pull the trigger, because I don't give a fuck.
And now, after all this time, I finally figured out a way to trap him. I will become him.
Face Off is just one of those batshit crazy movies that, like, it's shocking that it exists. It's like simultaneously an excellent movie and a terrible movie. And it's kind of crazy how both of those things can be so clearly true at the same time. Nicolas Cage just doing his best work. Like, he has talked about, I've gushed about Vampire's Kiss on this podcast before. Nicolas Cage has talked about how, he loves silent movies, and in Vampire's Kiss, he was doing a lot of experimenting with silent style acting in a sound movie, and how he then took what he learned from that movie and put it into Face Off, which is just wild. Like, it's a a huge budget action movie with Nick Cage and John Travolta at the height of their popularity, John Woo directing all of these absurd action stunt sequences. There's a plane chase, a car chase, a boat chase. There's just like all this crazy shit going on. And you've got Nick Cage doing over the top silent film level insane acting, and it works perfectly for the movie. Like, it is the right decision for the character of Castor Troy. If you're not familiar with Face Off, the premise of the movie, which makes perfect scientific sense, is that John Travolta plays a cop whose son is murdered in cold blood by Nicolas Cage in the cold open of the movie. I guess Cage is for some reason trying to shoot John Travolta and misses and hits his kid. And Travolta spends like 6 years going on this crusade to bring him to justice. And he finally is able to find him and capture him. And they then find out that, oh shit, Nicolas Cage's brother has planted a bomb somewhere in the city along with Nicolas Cage. Nick Cage is in a coma. His brother is in prison. And the only way they can get the information out of his brother to know where the bomb is for John Travolta to surgically switch faces with Nicolas Cage, go into the prison as Nicolas Cage, and get the information out of his brother so they can figure out where the bomb is and how to defuse it before LA goes up in flames. Anyway, yeah, totally makes perfect sense. Kind of your standard action movie plot.
Yes, obviously.
This movie is so much fucking fun. Like seeing it in a big crowd with a ton of people was a lot of fun. Like this is just, it's the kind of big fun action movie that you want to see on the biggest screen you can with a bunch of people and just have a good time with it. Travolta is good in it. You know, he's John Travolta hamming it up, doing his Travolta thing. But like, this is Nicolas Cage's movie. He's just so fucking good in this. And like, there are lots of scenes with him doing crazy shit that, you know, you're just laughing at how over the top he's going, but it also works really well. And there's just a lot of impressive acting in the movie. But yeah, highly recommend this film. I think it's one of Cage's most fun movies and legitimately one of his best performances. Like he's really able to go 100% and do everything that he wants to do in the role. You know, he starts out as the bad guy, then he's the good guy because he's Travolta inside Nicolas Cage, and he's just going through this existential crisis. Like every time he sees himself in the mirror, he freaks out and like tries to shoot himself. It's just like it's so fucking good. Like this villain character of Castor Troy, he has 2 golden pistols that he carries around, and you know, because he's a badass. And like, just Jesus Christ, the movie is absolutely insane. I'm sure you have both seen Face Off. But what are your thoughts on the film?
Oh, I fucking love John Woo. So obviously this is a movie that I would love as well. It's got the signature doves in it too.
Lots
John
of
Woo
doves inside for no reason.
Loves having doves all over the place. I love the logic of you transition somebody's face to another person's face and they immediately have the same body as the person that previously had.
They like wipe over that with like, oh yeah, we'll just do some liposuction to remove those love handles, talking to Travolta to become Cage.
Yep.
He's like, oh yeah, we'll just put like a microchip in your larynx and then, you know, you'll just be able to talk exactly like Nicolas Cage now. And it's just like, it's amazing how quickly they move over the science. And then when they fucking cut his face off and they like suck it up into this plastic container, it's just so funny looking. Like Cage wakes up from his coma without a face and like looks over and sees Travolta's face like floating in this clear goo. And it's just, oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, the I could eat a peach for hours scene is.
I could eat a peach for hours.
Just great.
So many amazing
science.
quotes. There's like so many memes have come from this movie, like Cage as a priest swinging his head around with his hands on his knees and then walking up behind a high school choir girl and just grabbing all of her ass and looking like he's coming in his pants while doing it. Just
insane.
So many wonderful GIFs and memes have come out of this movie.
Yeah, I remember like this and Con Air came out.
Same year.
And yeah, and I kind of remember thinking like this is where people just kind of knew something was not good per se. Like just the premise is just like, nah, and you watch it and you're like, this is all dumb, but like we're enjoying it.
Yep.
And like accepting it as just like this stupid thing. And there were action movies before. There's a lot of sort of schlocky action movies in the 80s. But I kind of feel like at the mid 90s, this is, mid to late 90s, where there kind of was this wake up of just like, yeah, we know this is all bullshit, right? Like, we're not even going to try to necessarily play along by the rules anymore. And like, we don't, I talked before about the like artistic vision. I'm like, yeah, you're having fun. So you just kind of like let everything go. Like, that's the same feeling I have about Con Air and The Rock, when we're talking about Cage.
Put the bunny back in the box.
Yeah, we're just like, let's go, whatever. Like, we know this is dumb. And it kind of, I think that leads into the action movies that are just completely stupid, over the top, and are okay with it. And this is kind of just where I remember that going. And it's something that's like that and Con Air still get mentioned all the time. And I feel like always in the like, oh my God, Face Off. And it's never like, oh yeah, the great action movie, Con Air. It's always just like, fucking Con Air, am I right?
But it's such a good action movie. Like the action set pieces are incredible. And they're all done on screen. There's no fucking CGI. It's all practical effects. It looks great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, both those, like they are good at being movie. It's the plot. I guess.
Oh, the plot is completely
right.
asinine.
It's the
Yeah.
plot that's so ridiculous, but they're very serviceable, fun movies. Like,
Mhm.
I love that a plot point of Face Off is that John Travolta touches his wife's face in the grossest way.
Everyone's face. He
Yeah,
runs
it's
his
just-
hand down the front of their face, his wife, his kids, literally every person imaginable. And of course, Nick Cage does it too when he's John Travolta.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, yeah, it happens like fucking 15 times in the movie.
Yeah. And everybody always looks so disgusted when it happens too. It's like
Yeah.
when somebody tells me happy Monday. That's what I made a gif of that at one point. Just they hit you with that face swipe. Just
I believe you get your ass kicked for saying something like that.
but yeah, I love John Woo. I love his action, his set pieces. He just knows how to shoot really cool shit. Like,
He does.
I don't know, from the things I've seen, like Hard Boiled, any of the stuff with Chow Yun Fat, I'm like, hell yeah. John Woo, Chow Yun Fat, great match. John Woo, John Travolta, Nick Cage, amazing. I love the end sequence when Nick Cage, I used to have a roommate who fucking loved Face Off so much that he would, when he was playing video games, he would yell the classic Cage, die, and do like that shit he would do the full thing too. And I was like, holy shit, this guy is fucking all about it.
I love the scene when Cage as Travolta goes into the prison and the prison, everybody wears these magnet boots for some reason. And like,
Yes.
that doesn't make any fucking sense. I guess it like helps security if the prisoners are not very mobile and the guards can just lock their feet down whenever they want. But Cage goes up to his brother and he's, introducing himself and or is like, hey man, how's it going? And his brother immediately looks at him with this incredible suspicion. Like, wait a minute. Are you my brother or are you just like wearing my brother's face? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's so stupid. And the dialogue in that scene is hilarious too, because Cage turns to his brother and goes, we're going to blow up LA, bro. Like, just in the prison around other people. Just, we're going to blow up LA, bro. Just incredible movie. It combines my love of practical effects and Nicolas Cage going completely insane. And it's great.
How was the 35 millimeter print?
It was good.
good
There
shit?
were, definitely some imperfections in the print. It's a, 1997 movie. It clearly wasn't a new print, but it still looked really good. Like, I've seen older movies on 35 millimeter that you're like, I kind of just wish I had seen this in digital because there's so many like marks on it.
Yeah.
But this one, there were some scenes where it got a little bit distracting, but for the most part, it looked really good.
Nice. Well, now you get to. Had you seen it in 35 before, or
No, I'd only
Okay.
seen it. I think I'd only seen it at home before, so that was fun to see it on 35. And actually, Kino Lorber is putting it out on 4K later this year,
Oh shit!
so
Very
definitely going to be
nice.
picking that up.
Rad. Very cool.
nice. Has John Woo made anything like, quote, good?
Face Off.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
like,
talking about-
and I feel like it's like, what, Face Off and Broken Arrow and what was the
I
Van
haven't
Damme
seen
movie? Would you say Hard
Any of
Boiled?
his Hong Kong films, so I can't speak to that.
Does it count if he made Mission Impossible 2, or was that terrible?
I don't think
That
that's
was
a good
not a
movie.
good
I don't
movie,
know.
yeah.
Okay. Well, never mind. I don't want to.
Yeah, what's amazing is like he is a really good action director and has really great action scenes, and I think brings something like this sort of dumb premise up to like a watchable level. But yeah, I don't
More
he's
than
never
that,
really
like
been
it's really fun
attached-
movie. Yeah,
Yeah, he's never really been attached to something like good. I know he's had some movies that have taken stabs.
I've heard good
like-
things about Hard Boiled. I've never seen it.
Oh man, he in Hard Boiled, there's a sequence where he puts a baby's life at stake, like literally in the production.
Oh wow.
And he doesn't tell anybody that anything's going to happen, and then it does, and he's like, I need to save the baby, so it's fine.
Dear
Like,
God.
yeah. Hard Boiled has some fucking shit in it that you just have to see to believe. It's amazing.
He also made a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie called Hard Target.
Hard
that
Target,
I have
yeah.
not
That was the one I was trying to
seen,
think of, yeah.
but I love Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I need to watch that movie.
He's got a big mullet in that one.
Of course he does. He's
he always
Jean-Claude
has
Van
that.
Damme.
Yeah. I just wanted you to know he's staying on brand.
It's like right around the same time as Time Cop, I think. So yeah, he's still sporting that mullet.
prime damn Van Damme at that point.
Mhm.
Nice. Cool. All right. John, what did you watch this week? I know you watched a bunch of things, but what do you want to talk about?
Well, I had my birthday event and I watched 2 schlock movies.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm happy to be 1 year closer to death.
John is 79 this week.
That's right. Very old man now. So as an old man, obviously I have to watch better movies. It's for my health, really. All of the schlock has taken
too
a
much
toll.
schlock will kill you.
Yeah, that's what my doctor said. I should have listened. But we watched 2 movies on my birthday. Both were schlock, and I really don't want to talk about schlock right now. Shocker for everybody out there.
Schlocker.
That's my nickname on the streets. But I ended up watching. I had a hankering after our Jaws discussion to watch another Spielberg, and I talked about my favorite one being Jurassic Park. I figured I have a 3D copy of Jurassic Park. I've got the 3D glasses. I want to see if I'm actually telling the truth when I say the 3D version is really good.
The most phenomenal discovery of our time.
How'd you do this?
Becomes the greatest adventure of all time. Universal Pictures presents
You feel that?
Hold on to your butts.
Jurassic Park.
So Sasha and I sat down and watched it after my birthday festivities were over, and it was fantastic. I think that the 3D version of Jurassic Park, while not, I wouldn't say it's like a superior version to the standard format. I'd say that it has some really interesting aspects to it. And it's another one of those movies that really talks to what the medium of 3D, like what became a gimmick, could have been something more. And I know that in the past we've talked about Hugo, Dixon and I, especially. I think, Ryan, did you watch Hugo? I can't remember if we watched it with us.
We watched Hugo. I haven't seen it in 3D, but I saw some bits in 3D, but I watched the full movie, just regular type.
Yeah. And like Hugo is really cool. It pushes that kind of envelope of what 3D can be by adding depth to the frame. Scorsese knew what he was doing. Jurassic Park is interesting because Hugo was shot with the intention of making it 3D, but Jurassic Park was post-processed into 3D. And when you see other movies where it's like they post-processed live action Beauty and the Beast and like all this other shit that
like the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels.
Yeah, and it's just like kind of garbage. Like there are moments where I remember in one of those 3D Pirates of the Caribbean trailers, like Jack Sparrow hides behind a door and a sword comes out. And it's one of those like, let's just exploit the gimmick of, oh, it's coming right at you. Jurassic Park 3D doesn't try to do that at all. It uses 3D to create that depth and frame that I love about that aspect of the technology. There are sequences where like the T-Rex sequence, for instance, it really gives you this feeling of the depth between the kids being attacked by the T-Rex in the car during that really tense moment. It just adds an extra layer to everything. And the only reason I say that it's not like the superior version is because post-processed 3D has limitations to it. And I noticed them when I was watching it. Namely, at times the frame rate would dip in the movie, which was interesting. I've never kind of seen that happen, but when there were fast pan shots or something was really
like
quick,
below 24.
It would dip below 24 and it would kind of bring me out of it, but it was never during the critical moments. It was always like they're panning over to show us some establishing shot and, oh, there's a frame dip in the middle of it.
Because like the 3D wouldn't look as good otherwise?
I'm not entirely sure if it's that or if it's just the amount of frames they had to work with and how they could interpolate it over the course of the time, did something different. So that was one thing I noticed. And then the other thing was it's just really dark. Like 3D post-process movies are darker than they normally probably would be. And so darker scenes in the movie were harder to see, like especially when you hit things at night. Like the T-Rex scene is still fucking great. But when you get into like the trees with Alan and the kids, then it's just kind of like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on for some of these sequences. So with that, like, I don't know, it's one of those things where I would recommend it. I would recommend the 3D experience of Jurassic Park. I think that it's a fantastic time if you're able to do it. But if you're not, you're not really missing a whole lot. There's just these cool nuances to it that feel like a lot more care was put into the post-processing than other movies can claim. So
yeah, interesting. I haven't seen the original Jurassic Park since I was a kid, and I was probably like a teenager. And I remember liking it, and I remember, I always like Laura Dern and stuff. I distinctly remember when watching Jurassic World when it came out that Jurassic Park's effects looked way better than Jurassic World's special effects. So about 10 years ago, there was this onslaught of like not shot in 3D, but post-processed in 3D movies where like every big blockbuster was shown in 3D for 80% of the screenings, so they could charge $4 more per ticket. And you had to like actually try to find a 2D version to go see a movie. And that was like the point where I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I missed out on like Mad Max Fury Road in 3D because I was just assuming that all 3D movies suck. Like I didn't see Hugo in 3D in theaters, and because that was around this time where there was all this awful 3D of movies that were shot in 2D and then done post-production into 3D, and it would just look like multiple layers of 2D, and I thought it looked really stupid, right? And it's like, Pirates of the Caribbean 3 or whatever, and it's just like, it looks like 4 layers of 2D stacked on top of each other. And like, this looks like a pop-up book. It looks stupid. How does that play out in Jurassic Park? I imagine Spielberg put some more care into doing it than these studios who are just trying to shit out these movies and make an extra $4 or $5 a ticket to get people to go see it in 3D. How do you feel like it looked? How did it blend together? You mentioned that you liked the look of it, but like compared to other movies that are shot in 2D and then after the fact rendered into 3D, how does this compare versus those types of movies and versus movies that are actually shot in 3D?
I think that it's on par with movies shot in 3D.
That's a bold claim.
It's very competently post-processed as opposed to the others where they kind of phone it in. And yeah, I understand that image layering. I definitely know there's like this parallax effect where you're like, all right, I remember seeing Beauty and the Beast in theaters in 3D, which was a terrible time.
Oh, that's
and
a bad
having
idea. That's a dark movie already.
Yeah, and like Lumiere is like realistically rendered candelabra that's like dark silver and just looks like absolute ass. And in the background, there's like all of the other fucking inanimate objects talking, and of course they're animated, but it's just like every one of them felt layered in a way that they were like, all right, now we'll put this layer here and we'll put this layer here and we'll get that. And you can feel the stacks, like you were saying, Dixon, of here's all that. This movie has so many depth focused sequences. They could not get away with that shit if they really tried to do it. If they were going to go all in and have director approval, I feel like they couldn't get away with it. And they did a great job because there are sequences like, for instance, seeing the actors in screen with like the dinosaurs, everything kind of feels natural and you can feel the depth between like the distance between actors and dinosaurs there. There are sequences like at the very end, there's a whole sequence where the family that's trying to escape is stuck in the vents and there's a raptor jumping at them, and the girl Lex falls through and is holding on. And it's one of those sequences where you can see the floor and you can see the actual vents, and there is full depth to it. It doesn't feel like two images that are layered on top of each other. Like the raptor looks like it's about 12 feet down. And it's got that same kind of vibe where it can just bring you into those moments a little bit harder than the flat frames could. That's offset obviously by like the frame rate drop. And anytime that there's water, for whatever reason, water is the weakness of post-processing. It's so hard to capture depth over water and these other shots that they get. But yeah, like I would say it was adequately done, beyond adequately done. It was superbly done, and it stacks up next to natively 3D shot films in how it's executed. Just there were no parts that really stuck out to me as like they really didn't try here. It felt like it was naturally shot in 3D, which is crazy to say, but that was just kind of how I took it away.
Yeah, that is really interesting. To
and
put
I think
that much care.
They did a Jaws version too,
because that didn't get released in 3D.
Yeah,
right?
it
That's
didn't.
just for that.
I mean, they went back and
Blu-ray,
did Jaws at one point. They did Jaws in 3D, and there's no
I
version.
bet you
of
they
Jaws
re-released them in theaters when they remastered them in 3D.
Definitely.
Or was this just for 3D
Yeah.
TVs?
They did
like,
because
trying
they
to
did
hype
it
up?
for the anniversary of Jaws, and they did it for the anniversary of Jurassic Park. They had 3D versions released, but Jaws never got a Blu-ray release 3D, to my knowledge.
Oh, interesting. That's weird.
But I heard good things about that as well. And
Well,
I
isn't
feel
Jaws 3D the name of the third movie?
That is,
so that's
but
got to
they-
be confusing.
Yeah, I'm sure that is. But they were like Jaws 3D : the good one, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck it is.
Colon the first one. Yeah.
The good one, yeah, the real one.
I wonder if that was helped by the fact that it was shot on film, because like, digitally shot movies can look very flat, and this onslaught of 3D movies that was happening in theaters 10 years ago was when everything was moving over to digital, and you still had like auteurs and directors who had enough influence with the studio shooting their movies on film, but so many of them were being shot digitally at the time, and still are today. But I wonder if it helped that it was shot on film. There's more depth in the frame already that they can work with, and maybe make that look a little bit more realistic in post-production than they can with a digitally shot movie where there's not a lot of depth there to work with.
I would say, it's very plausible that could happen in terms of like the focal point too. Some of the ways that the shots are made, like there's a whole sequence with Laura Dern and whoever the Australian hunter is that they're going out. It's like right before he's attacked by the raptors, where they're talking.
Samuel L. Jackson.
And he's Samuel L. Jackson, the Australian hunter. They're like talking in the forest, and it's not a 1-2 shot. It's like he's in the foreground and she's in the background, and the focal will pull between the two of them. Mostly just stays on him. And the 3D really naturally draws your eye to a more prominent figure. Even with a focal adjustment, you just feel a little extra emphasis on their presence in frame. So those moments were added to, and I feel like maybe the film factored into it. I don't know. I want to see more movies that have that kind of touch, but I'm sure they're so rare to get something that was shot on film and then post-processed and director approved, no less. Like, that's got to be hard to get. But
you're mentioning the focal point chain. Like in my mind, the first thing that I thought of was the kitchen scene where the kids are like climbing in the cabinet and you see the raptor in the distance and the focal kind of changes. I'm like, in 3D, I feel like that's a pretty cool scene because you feel the same sense of depth and distance.
You feel even more like you're there, like you're right in that moment, looking down that corridor, and it's crazy how your brain is tricked into it.
I wonder how the vertigo shot in Jaws looks in 3D. Have you seen Jaws in 3D?
I've not seen Jaws in 3D. I know that they have the vertigo shot in Coraline, which I just got on 3D as well. And I haven't had the chance to watch yet, but I'm sure it looks pretty awesome. I bet that depth really fucks with your brain.
Yeah.
Coraline is one of the
vomit-inducing. Too visceral.
Coraline is one of the examples I point to of something that as far as I know, does something in 3D that only works in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And the way when she goes between the worlds, there's a little door she crawls through, and when she goes to that door in the 2D version, it kind of just uses the traditional vertigo, which is it's an actual in-camera effect vertigo because
it's stop motion, right?
Actually
so it's all motion. It's all in camera.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they do that, but in the 3D version, they purposely like rotate it in a way that's like unnatural. And so it adds this really eerie effect because because in 3D you can see it and be like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be real. That's wrong. And kind of helps you like transition into this world that's like off. Hugo, I could see parts in there where I'm like, okay, I can see where the 3D adds potentially a lot to this that wasn't there. I just didn't get the chance to see that.
Yeah. I do want to say one other thing is at the end of this movie, I thought of an alternative because I don't like Jurassic Park Lost World. I don't like any of the sequels to Jurassic Park. I'll just be outright with it. I'm not a fan.
They're all pretty
sequels.
awful.
They're all pretty bad.
I didn't see the most recent one, but
you suddenly get a really great appreciation for Lost World after watching more Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yes, that is absolutely
At least
true.
It's got a lot of Goldblum in it, you know?
Yes. But at the end of this one, maybe it's just because my brain's so fried on how, not schlock, but like fried on how cynical reboots would be done, like soft reboots. But I was like, I saw the moment this movie ended, how it could transition into an actual soft reboot. Let's like fuck all of the other sequels that have ever happened. Let's pretend they don't exist.
We're Halloweening this shit.
Yeah. We end on that, that sequence where the T-Rex comes into the museum and it bites the raptors. I know you haven't seen it in a long time.
I don't remember that. But
there's a sequence where the T-Rex comes in and he bites the raptors and he fights them off. And then the banner of the fucking museum falls. It says, "When dinosaurs ruled the earth," and the T-Rex like roars really fucking loud. It's a great like pinnacle sequence of the movie. I immediately in that moment pictured, okay, now we pull back and reveal that it's on a television. John Hammond has failed his theme park, but somebody else is willing to take up the torch because capitalism prevails. Capitalism,
It always does. Capitalism finds a way.
Yeah, you fucking beat me to it, you son of a bitch. And it's a TV playing the movie with fake actors, a la Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Okay.
And everybody, and we cut to the young boy who was in the group of the original Jurassic Park troupe. He was with Alan or whatever. Now he's all grown up. Now he's fucking bitter. He saw everything that happened and nobody listened, and they opened Jurassic World. Who fucking knows? And at this point,
where does Nicolas Cage come into this?
Nicolas Cage comes in because Nicolas Cage is his agent. He's trying to book him, right? He's trying to get this kind of publicity. He's trying to tell the story that nobody's bold enough to tell.
He's doing the Matthew McConaughey role.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Tugger Nuts. The original kid from Jurassic Park. I can't remember what his name is. What, Jake? Some shit like that. He's just like trying to cash in on his fame and be like, look, I was there on the island when everything went wrong and Samuel L. Jackson got eaten by raptors and whatever. And he can't fucking make shit from his name, but everybody out there is capitalizing on Jurassic World, making toys and all that shit. And we make him the protagonist, an anti-hero. And we make him be like, look, I've been trying to tell y'all forever because I've been trying to cash in on it. Now you want to bring me in, they come and find him and they're like, why don't you come consult in our park? You saw what happened with your grandfather's park. Why not do these things?
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, this all unfolded in like 5 seconds in my brain. And I was like, there it is. There's the movie they should have done. That's just completely drenched in cynicism and completely bitter.
We got to get those animatronic T-Rexes though.
Yeah. We need full practical and all of this stuff. But that's what
no more raptor training.
Yes, none of that shit.
No more chameleon T-Rexes that can turn invisible at will.
Or raptor training where the trainer eventually, who's Chris Pratt, by the way, gets eaten.
God damn it.
He gets fucking eaten and ripped in half.
Oh, okay.
So we get a good catharsis for the audience.
I don't think Chris Pratt would take that role. I feel like even if you paid Chris Pratt $100 million, you'd be like, you're going to be the guy who gets eaten in the first scene. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we'd have a
his
stand-in
ego's too big. Yeah,
called Christopher Bratt or something.
The character name is Chris Pratt.
That's the character name.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I just started thinking about it. I was like, holy shit, this would be way better. I would watch the shit out of whatever this is. I don't care if it would be bad or not. I wish that it would have been that way, but it's not. Now we have 5 movies after this.
Is Jurassic Park the franchise to like lampoon franchise rebooting? If anything, Jurassic Park should be the one that makes fun of gearing things to kids that should not be geared to kids.
Yes, I agree.
That's what I want to see.
The RoboCop problem. Yeah. I feel like Spielberg's franchises like that. There are the rule of like, you should never hire other directors to do sequels to these movies that everybody liked, and like, Jaws and Jurassic Park and these movies that he's made that were huge hits. And then they just bring in hacks to do the sequels and they always suck. And it's just never worth doing that. But, the cynical studios can make a lot of money off of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So
they keep making money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you out there, Universal, I know you're listening. When you fucking want new ideas, why don't you reboot your franchise by having Jurassic World be some fever dream made for TV movies and just go ahead, reboot it the way I said, hire the old actors, get them in here.
Let's get David Lynch to do the next one.
Oh, hell yeah. That's an idea right there.
What are the dinosaurs supposed to represent?
All kinds of things. Yeah. If you're going to do a franchise reboot, maybe don't hire the most boring people in the world. Let's not hire Chris Pratt or Ron Howard's daughter or whoever the fuck. Colin Trevorrow. Is that even a person? Is that even a real guy?
I'll tell you, Colin Trevorrow.
Has anyone ever seen that guy? I don't think he's real.
He's good. He's a good director.
Just maybe if you're going to actually do this, hire some talented people and try to put some energy into it.
Ask Sam Neill what he wants for once. Don't just bring Sam Neill back.
No,
what if Laura Dern directs the next one?
Oh, I would love. Whatever Laura Dern's going to, she'd bring in David Lynch. She'd consult.
Laura Dern directs and David Lynch stars. I would see the shit out of that movie.
There are dinosaurs. They're over there.
David Lynch as his Twin Peaks character with the hearing loss and everything. Yeah.
You're getting a 3/4 view of dinosaurs. Get a good look. We're going to do it again.
It's a very good impression for someone who has not seen Twin Peaks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just love David Lynch as a person. He's great.
He is. You need to watch more David Lynch movies, John.
Honestly.
I'm going to have to pick one for the podcast, aren't I? That's the only way
you're
going to watch a David Lynch
You're going to have
movie.
to break the dam. I mean, I'm in a vulnerable state right now. I've seen too much schlock.
Yeah, he says
said
he
it.
wants to watch good movies.
I'm watching good movies.
We gotta open it up.
Well,
All
Ryan,
right.
what do you got?
All right. What do I? So I had a couple of plane trips to potentially watch something decent, and I didn't. But I didn't watch any of the good movies we've talked about historically. Want to give him the choice.
Whenever Ryan is faced with the opportunity to watch a good movie, he spits in the face of cinema.
Yes. Yeah, I decide it's time for something.
Let me watch
schlocky or
Aquaman
something.
for the 5th time.
Yes.
And fall asleep.
Martin Scorsese sheds a
fall
single
asleep on
tear.
Yes, so I actually had my birthday recently too, as the oldest man on this podcast, which I spent flying back to the States.
How
And
old are you
chose-
now, Ryan?
I am exactly 40.
79.
Wow.
1 year older than me.
Yeah, so I watched M3GAN or M3GAN.
Katie, you lost your parents.
Welcome home.
You're my niece. I'm gonna do everything I can to make this place feel like home. I have this project at work. Do you want to see?
Yes.
Ever since I was little, I dreamed of this perfect toy that would protect a kid from ever feeling lonely or sad. This is M3GAN.
Hi, M3GAN. I'm Katie. It's nice to meet you, Katie. Do you want to hang out? M3GAN, did you push Brandon onto the road? I won't let anything harm you. M3GAN! What's wrong with you? Don't worry, Katie. I won't let anything harm you. Ever again.
I always hate it when they put numbers in the title of something.
Just write the word as it's spelled in the English language.
I'm so
Is that
glad
too
they
much to ask?
Didn't put a 4 in the Matrix.
Yeah, Jesus. Mafortrix Resurrection.
So yes, M3GAN should be a movie that if anyone knows the behind the production of this and has listened to this podcast should think that I absolutely hated this thing because it is written by the person that wrote *Malignant*.
Oh yeah.
Is it James Wan or is it someone else?
James Wan and
It
his
is
wife?
Produced. James Wan did supposedly some writing on it, but I think it was just mainly he's produced it. And James Wan produced Conjuring and Annabelle and all
Yeah,
that
he started the
crap,
whole
which I also
Conjuring
hate.
universe. Yeah.
Isn't there a new one of those?
Yeah, probably.
Something Red Door?
There's tons coming up. There's yes, in fact, the
The
people that
only
worked
thing
on
that keeps Patrick Wilson alive.
yeah, the people that worked on M3GAN are working on The Nun 2, which is some spinoff to a spinoff of all that shit. I don't
Black
even know, and I
Narcissus
don't
sequel?
even care.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
and
another
James-
M3GAN movie already in the works.
Yes, a 2.0. Yeah.
Maforgan?
And James Wan also worked on
Maforgan.
Aquaman, which we know puts me to sleep.
Yep.
Uh,
You're
Yeah, so
big.
everything about this movie should be a disaster. But I actually enjoyed it. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
whoa.
Very
But
surprised.
I actually did enjoy it. And I think what's weird is everywhere I complained and felt like *Malignant* failed, this movie got it enough that is making me think that *Malignant*, since it's the same writer, was legitimately trying to be bad. This was an argument I believe we've had, John,
yes.
of like, did *Malignant* know it was horrible or was it accidentally horrible? I'm thinking it knew it was, but didn't know exactly how to pull that off quite right. So, and the other interesting thing is, as a horror movie, this is a PG-13. I guess they were going for an R. They started in the marketing, saw that teenagers were into it, and so they geared it down to be PG-13, which didn't really bother me either. I think a lot of times movies now, horror movies that go for R, just do stupid shit they don't need to do.
Yeah.
Just because they're like, hey, we have an R rating. Let's get as fucking
Let's put a
horrible as we can
backwards
get.
head person and make them fight a bunch of police officers in a giant penitentiary.
Yeah, it always annoys me when studios try to like make the movie for the rating they want. You know, it's like, just make the movie that you think is going to be the best movie, and whatever rating it gets is what it gets. But it's like every movie has to be PG-13 now because that's going to put the most butts in seats. Because you've got to get the 14-year-olds in there because they have nothing else to do. And they're all horny and scared, and they want to see horny, scary things. And you've got to tone it down enough to keep it PG-13. But like, and yeah, like the inverse of that, you're saying like sometimes if they get an R, there's like, I guess we might as well just fucking go for it, right? And just have all of these excessive scenes that don't really make any sense for the story just because we already got an R. Let's get our money's worth.
My understanding is that they were like doing the production of this gear. They were planning it to just be like, it'll be an R, like we can just kind of whatever. And then kind of partway through, we're like, hey, you know what? Like we're only like need to cut 2 scenes to get down to a PG-13. And essentially, and they released an unrated version. Another thing I think we've complained about on this podcast.
Which version did you watch?
I watched the like legit theatrical version, but I looked up. It's only like a few scenes, and they're honestly things where I'm like, well, that didn't add anything. It's like someone gets killed, and in the scene in the unrated version, like their skin gets completely peeled off. It was like, it doesn't add anything to it.
Does it look cool?
Is it practical or is it CG?
It's practical. Actually, a decent amount of this movie is practical with like CG kind of on top of it, which works. So but it was also like, that's not exactly what this movie was. It's campy in a way, but not that kind of horror campy because it's leaning more towards the sci-fi aspect. And so I actually kind of appreciate that it like ends up not being as many killings and as gruesome because it's much more just about the technology and was technology doing to us, and they kind of played around a little bit more in that space. So I think where it succeeded, where it got me, was it knew what it was, and it kind of rode in the camp. Like it never really was like, hey, this needs to be scary. It never really felt like it needed jump scares. Like it kind of just went for like a little, and it's a lot like Child's Play. The basic plot is that our main character works at a It starts off with a fake ad, by the way, that's amazing. But she works for a company that builds toys, and essentially they build these like ultra high-tech Furbies. The open of the movie is an ad for their like current version of their like super toy Furby that
Tropic Thunder
legit
style.
The ad is like
Tropic Thunder small
kind of like a Tropic
soldiers,
Thunder because the ad is absolutely like singing a song in the style. Yeah, no, it's like in the style of like a 90s advertisement where the kid's dog dies and they're just singing. They're like, did your pet die? We'll get one of our pets. It never dies. And they're like, this is so much better. It won't die like my dog did. Like the kid's all
what
excited.
do I know? I'm just a bear.
Yes. And I was like, that right there. I'm like, the movie gets it. Cause you're like, that never would be a real ad.
Yeah.
But the movie like knows and is playing with that space
It's
of
like
like,
Paul Verhoeven.
yeah, let me take it to an extreme that's
Would you like
stupid
to know more?
and we can have fun now, right? Like we're taking it one past, where it should be. And so kind of everything within that realm of like the toy and the company that's building the toy and all that shit, it's a little bit like Small Soldiers or Child's Play, where it's kind of like they know they're not supposed to be doing this. It's bullshit and they're pushing it to its extreme anyway. And it uses the ideas, it plays in the sci-fi territory. I don't feel like it fully gets there, but the ideas of like, what is technology doing? Are we using it to raise our kids so we're not parents? Is it a distraction from everything? How do we deal with our grief if we're just like using these things in these moments to get past, but not actually feel emotions or anything? So I was like, okay, it's trying to say something. Honestly, it just says like, it's bad, okay? It doesn't really go anywhere with them because at the end of the day, it's a horror movie. It's not actually a sci-fi movie. The way they did the robot character is good. It gets you just like enough uncanny valley. It sometimes plays with the like GLaDOS voice kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, what's that?
Just enough.
It's from a video.
So
game.
yeah, in the Portal games, you're kind of there's this AI that's running the simulations or whatever that you're going through and has that kind of like broken AI voice
Sounds like a Siri, but just slightly off.
Yeah,
Okay.
just like
So-
a just off Siri. Yeah, is a good example.
Like the AI woman in Halo kind of a thing.
A little bit more off than that.
Okay.
More off, more
Yeah.
creepy. Yeah, played sort of the more creepy aspects of like the language, simulation being off.
Yeah. Less her and more Hal.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Right. Hal kind of has that like staccato. Yeah, there's actually a song bit in here that I think is almost a pull from that, where at the end when they're fighting her, she sings a song she sang earlier on, and I was like, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And yeah, kind of like the movie never goes anywhere like truly unexpected or anything. You honestly know where it's going, but this is a little bit more like buckle up and kind of like an action movie where you're kind of like, I know what's gonna happen. Like Batman's gonna beat the Joker, right? Come on, like what are we here for? You honestly kind of know where the movie is going, but you're fine with it, is what I felt like. So this is not like it's not an A movie, it's not a B movie, like B plus movie. This is like a solid middle of the road movie, which surprises me because I'm like, I fucking hate like Annabelle and The Conjuring.
Oh yeah, those are
and,
fucking
like,
terrible.
And they've made 30 of those movies. I hated Malignant, which I feel like was gonna get a sequel. Like I already predicted my sequel plot for Malignant. But the fact that they've accelerated M3GAN to a M3GAN 2.0 already, I was like, I think they found a new, like, I think they'll forget about Malignant and they're going to try to go down this angle. It really was. And the only thing that I was like off is I felt the directing was just like, fine.
Yeah.
And I think for a horror movie to be a good, like, emblematic horror movie, there have to be some interesting things from a director standpoint.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to make a
about,
good horror movie. Like you got to have some chops as a director to make a good horror movie.
And I feel like that was the piece that was missing, because in my mind I was like thinking of like Halloween, or even like the original Friday the 13th. It's bad.
Yeah.
But the like effects work, the gore work, the like
Kevin Bacon dying gruesomely. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
The like in camera, like we're following the killer's viewpoint kind of thing. That stuff all was sort of interesting to cinema at the time. It's bad and it's schlocky, but it was something, right? And it stuck with people. With M3GAN, I'm like, the only thing that really sticks with them is the like design of M3GAN. And that's good in the way that like Chucky's design is good. But there are things about the Chucky movie that kind of elevate it like up one level. I say Chucky, but I mean Child's Play. Later they were called Chucky. And this plays in that same space where it knows it's funny and it's really mainly trying to like be funny and kind of laugh and have fun. It's not really ever trying to be scary, which I think I appreciated. Like that's kind of what I wanted out of it.
This movie has a 6.4 on IMDb and a 72 Metascore, which is very rare for a schlocky horror movie like this. And I remember when it came out at the start of the year, it came out January 6th, which like
is a disaster, right?
It's a sign.
I was not thinking about that,
Ways.
but stuff that is released at the beginning of the year is stuff that the studio is just offloading. They're like, we don't have any confidence in this. This is not going to be good. We're just going to drop it right at the beginning of the year. Everybody's still trying to catch up on the Oscar movies, and like we're just and the big studio films that were released on Christmas Day, and we're just going to drop our awful shit here and hope no one notices. And critics really liked it, and I was like, I saw the trailers and I was like, no, I don't believe you.
Same.
I'm not seeing this. That looks stupid. But it appears that critics, according to the IMDb and the Metascore metrics, liked it better than general audiences. What do you think is driving that?
You know what? And I went back and I looked at reviews because I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
almost all the audience reviews are like, I wish this was like The Conjuring. I wish this was like Annabelle. And if you go read those, the critics are like, these are fucking shit. Right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And they just like The Conjuring and Annabelle. And honestly, I'm like, well, Paranormal Activities, in my mind, another example. They just try to fucking jump scare you like nothing's going on.
Yeah.
Like, and it's mainly just like, oh God, a cat, whatever is kind of all it has. And it has these like weird premises, but it never really does anything with it. The characters never really fucking go anywhere or are anything, which is what Malignant was like a perfect example of all of that. And I almost like maybe on purpose, where it's like it has a background that it tells you, but none of it fucking matters. And the characters are all stale as shit through the whole thing, like to the point that it became bad. But here I'm like, actually, oddly, they give you enough at the beginning of enough to care about the characters, to kind of understand their motivations. They give you an interesting villain that you're following that you know is going to become a villain, but you're sort of seeing it slowly unravel. Like all that's there that should be in a movie that those other movies don't have. But it never goes to the like bullshit, crazy deaths. There's never a killing in here that's like unjustified. Like that's another thing that I feel like is an interesting take, where it's like she never goes and like just straight up kills someone. There's always that like they kind of do something wrong. Where Friday the 13th is kind of that like, oh, the kids were off having sex, right? And there's sort of this like
capital offense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thou shalt not fornicate outside of the legal bonds of marriage.
Thou shalt be ashamed of thine own natural anatomy.
Yes, yeah. It's sort of like don't you know, you don't kill a virgin. They don't have it right kind of archetype or whatever.
Yep.
This movie then kind of sticks with that. Like there are chances where it's like you would think normally the robot would just go on a rampage. Like the programming's off, kill everything.
Right.
And the end of this movie
Westworld,
would just be this, nonsense bloodbath. But it honestly isn't. Like it kind of like goes at the pace it should go at. And so I'm like, it's actually functionally fine. Like it kind of crossed the board. And I think that's where it's like audiences kind of just have a different expectation about horror now. And the fact that this one's also like, I would say more towards like dark comedy than it is right out horror. And I think it kind of was presented as like and especially because I'm like, the people that worked on Malignant and Conjuring and Annabelle and are all, and The Nun or whatever, because the writers going on to do that are all part of this movie. And it's not like those movies. And I think that's where audiences probably just like kind of didn't get exactly what they wanted. But on the other hand, like there are plenty of people that I look through, they're like, this is fucking hilarious and fucking different and whatever. I enjoyed it, which is mainly what the critics said. There are just definitely some audience members that were like, they want the stupid shit that they liked.
I want to be jump scared.
Yeah.
I don't want existential dread or comedy that's dark. I just want to have a spooky sting and go, wah! That's like fucking it.
I assumed that critics liked it because it came out the first week of January and they were just shocked that it wasn't terrible. And
awful.
I assumed that there was like too much praise from critics because they were like, holy shit, usually all the stuff we have to watch this week is absolute garbage and this wasn't. And so we're going to like heap too much praise onto it because we're just so surprised that this is actually not a train wreck.
My God, we all just watched The Astrologer, and this is not that movie.
To me, in the horror vein, the American version of The Ring kind of fits this similar beats to this, where it kind of vaguely has something to talk about, but it never really lands on a point of it. Right? It has an interesting kind of villain, just even from a visual aspect, and gives you like enough of a background to kind of understand it. I'll say in that one, Naomi Watts' performance like elevates that movie to a higher level
Naomi
than this
Watts.
movie.
John, you need to watch Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that like kind of puts that at a level above this. But honestly, like that one's just sort of like, it's relatively straightforward. You kind of get where it's going, even when it's like oh wait, is the villain. Like it's not a fucking surprise. It kind of just is there. It's good. And that movie has stuck around its imagery and stuff. And I'm like, I think M3GAN, if 2.0 actually kind of tweaks the couple of things, it could. I don't think it will.
This
is my cynicism. 100%.
My cynicism
they
as
will
well.
learn all the wrong lessons and fuck it up gloriously.
Look at Jurassic Park.
Yeah. You mentioned that the villain is interesting visually. There was a scene in the trailer where M3GAN is dancing, and I saw that and I was like, that looks stupid as shit. I'm not going to see that movie. But there was this like groundswell of people like watching that trailer that were like, oh, that looks awesome. I'm going to go see this movie because of that dance scene in the trailer. Like, how does that scene play out in the movie? And does like, I guess I saw that and I was like, that looks stupid and unrealistic, but maybe that's just the cut of the trailer and I didn't see the whole movie. Like, but you thought that like for the most part, she was well done in the way that they animated her and made her look on screen.
Yeah, that's definitely in the once we're off the rails part of the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting how that, because that's pretty much why this movie got any success at all. Because yes, being dumped on January, no one was going to go see it. It got some hype off of the trailer and then a bunch of people doing shit on TikTok. And then people went and saw it, and it's probably like one of the more successful January movies ever.
Yeah.
Which isn't saying a lot, but it's saying something.
Right.
The way that the character is designed, I think, is really what kind of makes it stick. The dance is fucking weird, so it's just something that you can kind of copy on TikTok. But I honestly think like she has this like, and they purposely thought about all of this stuff in the design, but she has this like 1950s housewife kind of look. It's a little bit of the like Barbie kind of throwback in what she's supposed to be. Like they obviously lampoon Furbies, like that's their core toy to begin with, and this is kind of like a Barbie that's like taken to an even further level. So it isn't like in Child's Play, like that doll looks like a doll you can kind of get. This one, it's sort of a weird like throwback of what the doll is compared to what like modern expectations would be of like if you got a new toy, like Apple made a fucking living being that you child could have, it would not look like a 50s
it wouldn't
Barbie.
be like a
it would
fucking
look like some
Don
kind of
Draper
weird,
or some shit.
yes, aesthetically clean white thing.
Yeah.
It would be like Eve from WALL-E.
Yes, exactly.
That's basically
Is she CG, or is she a puppet, or is she like a person in a suit, or a combination
all
of
the
things?
above. They mix that all in, which is where I think makes it work. So by the time they get to the dance scene, that's after like not only do you as an audience, but everyone in the movie knows it's over. The thing is now figured out how to kill people and broken its programming.
It is now gloating by doing an end zone dance after killing.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. Yeah, it's the like the
Somebody
CEO comes around the corner, like
you've got to find her.
Yeah, the CEO comes around the corner and is like, "We have the presentation with everybody in 1 minute. Where's my fucking robot? You know, whatever kind of thing." And then she's on the other side, and he's like, "Oh, there you are." And then it does this fucking weird ass dance.
Does that dance? Yeah.
In the hallway, and that's the point where he's like, oh shit, something is way wrong.
This is
and
the
it really is
RoboCop
like, it
scene
passes
where the
about that
robot
quick.
comes in and murders all the board
Yeah,
members.
yeah.
Right. It's similarly like she does. There was one part that also was like kind of also just stupid. Like that was stupid, where she ends up chasing a kid through the woods, and she does the thing where she like gets down on all fours.
She's just
Yeah,
doing
I
a
remember
bear
that
crawl?
from the trailer. Yeah, that looked very unnatural.
It was unnatural and it's stupid, and it doesn't make sense why the robot would do that. But it's kind of in the vein of the movie. You kind of have just given up so much anyway. Like it kind of just knows that it's dumb and sort of just plays around in that area to where it's like, yeah, whatever, kind of all the time. So
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm like, I was fine with it because it's just like, this fucking movie's stupid, but I'm enjoying it, right? Like,
yeah.
Final question. I want to ask about the acting in the movie. So I tend to like Allison Williams. I think she actually seems to have some talent. She's very good in Get Out, despite being the spawn of notorious bullshitter Brian Williams. She seems to actually have some talent somehow. And she hasn't lied about like fighting in Iraq or whatever that Brian Williams is constantly bullshitting about. Also, Ronnie Chang is a Daily Show correspondent, and I have seen some of his bits that I have really enjoyed, and he seems like a fun comedian. I think he was in Crazy Rich Asians and was pretty good in that.
Yep.
So, like, how were they, and how was generally the acting in the film?
so Ronnie Chang plays the like CEO or whatever. I don't even know what his title is, but essentially the CEO
Of the
this
robot doll
Furby
company.
or whatever. Yeah, and it is that like turned up to 11 comedy. Like it's unrealistic how he is. He's the guy that's like, fucking throwing an iPad across the room, like, "Give me my kombucha," fucking, kind of thing. Right. And again, I'm like, that's the way you play it when we know this is campy, right? You're like, we turn up all our characters, we turn up all our villains to the point that they kind of get to be that level of bullshit. And so, yeah, I think he was fine. He was funny. That's exactly what he was supposed to be. The quote sympathetic-ish characters. Violet McGraw plays the young girl who her parents die at the beginning of the movie, and so she's having to stay with her aunt, who's played by Allison Williams. And Allison Williams is a sort of like detached programmer who has just thrown herself into her work. and kind of was like, I guess I'm a mother now. Like, I still have my job, and kind of like it. And I will say she is a weaker-ish Link, I think, because it's that where they weren't really sure that she kind of just is the like normal-ish final girl character in a movie that kind of is stupid all over every other place. that I wish that they had figured out exactly how to make that work. In my mind, it's kind of like the mom in Child's Play, where you're like, tell me anything about the mom in Child's Play. Yeah. But you're like the kid and the puppet and right, like that's all like good and fun. Yeah, and that's where I'm like, it doesn't quite that I wanted her to get to the level of the like either I really cared about her and like wanting to see her like succeed or whatever, where it's like the little girl you do because you're like, her parents died, and you get some tear joking, free moments from that. To where like again, she's fine, and I agree. And Get Out, I love her. She's fucking awesome, and Get Out, she's like great, the right level of creepiness, and then the fucking turn, and So again, I'm like, I hope they tweak it a bit for the next one, like if they can figure out how to like what to do next.
But it's not going to happen.
No. It's definitely going to be worse than the first one, right? There's no chance.
I will also say at the end of it, right, they like rip the robot in half. It's not enough. They blast its head in, and supposedly that's enough, but it's already like connected to the internet or whatever.
That's kind of where they leave it. Becomes Mission Impossible.
Oh my God. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is happening.
Insanity.
They also open up the possibility, which I think they're going to completely forget about, but in my mind was the more interesting possibility, that one of the guys inside the company was stealing the toys and selling them to this other company that's making their knockoff Furbies.
Oh, is it a Chinese
cheaper.
company?
Yeah, there's like a Chinese company that's making shittier Furbies at half the price.
Amazing.
And
nice.
He steals the stuff, so I'm like, so there's going to be like a half price shittier M3GAN out there.
More evil.
Right?
Yep.
That goes off the rails faster, but there's more of them or something, right? That's our sort of 2.0, but I don't think they're going down that angle. I think they're just going to whatever. And then, I'd be like, one of them, here's me trying to predict it. There's all these knockoff M3GANs. They also go off the rails, but one of them ends up actually becoming M3GAN. Like she actually downloads herself into one of those versions. Something. That's where I'm going to go with my sequel.
Oh, yeah, that's probably where it's going to go.
That's probably what it's going to do.
When they make they make that sequel, they need to make the Chinese knockoff M3GAN with the 4. They can do that easily. Just skip over any of it. Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure Ryan will tell us all about it in 2 years when it comes out. Yeah.
I'm way more interested in the sequel where they realize that Allison Williams created a robot that killed people, and she needs to be held for the crimes.
It's a courtroom drama.
Yes. And the fact that she like let that thing around children and other people even after she knew it probably was dangerous.
Bailiff, please bring out Exhibit A, and they bring out like a cage with M3GAN inside.
The Annabelle Lecter style.
Yeah. She like opens her mouth, and this just like uncanny metal sound comes out.
She has like a little tin cup that she's banging against the bars. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, you're tipping the scales for me, Ryan, because I had a number of friends that went and saw M3GAN, and they said that it was weird and it was kind of nice, and they liked it. And I was like, all right, I don't know what that means, but I'm not going to go see it because saw the same trailers that Dixon saw. It came out during what is known or coined by Red Letter Media as "fuck you, it's January."
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to see this. I saw Malignant. I don't need to see this shit.
If I couldn't go see the Philip Marlowe movie that came out in January, I'm not going to go see this. Like there was a movie that came out, I think it was called Marlowe in January, where Liam Neeson played Philip Marlowe, and I didn't go see that. Like I'm not going to go see M3GAN.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say Kenneth Branagh.
No,
Marlowe, which would be a hard no.
Definitely not see that. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Shakespeare's Marlowe.
But I was like, Liam Neeson is Philip Marlowe. Okay, I might go see that. But it was January, and I had other things to do.
Nice try, January. You're not fucking getting me that way. Oh, man.
No, I think this is, to me, a breath of fresh air in a kind of stupid ass genre that I tire of. I do like this is that, and we talked about it in some Octobers ago where I'm like, I fucking love those sequel shitty like the further out Halloweens.
Oh yes, we remember when you went through every single, double-digit horror franchise for a month and told us about all of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our
if they
episodes
nail the
lasted
right
6
level
hours.
of stupidity with Megan 2.0, I'm in for like 9 more shitty
my
Megans
God.
in space and whatnot. I'm in for it.
You would recommend M3GAN?
Yeah, I would recommend it. So yeah, it sounds like we have a full set of recommends.
Yeah.
Where
It does appear so.
Yes. We're recommending, Dixon recommends face /
I want to take
off.
his face off.
Yes.
Especially the on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
John
or really any way you
recommends
can
the-
watch it. Just watch
Yeah, any
Face
way
Off.
you can watch it.
Yeah.
It's Nicolas Cage at the peak of his Nicolas Caginess. You have to watch it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Did it ever come? It probably came out on VHS because it's in that
Yes.
window of
Oh,
VHS,
yeah.
Definitely.
DVD, both kind of, yeah.
For sure.
You can watch it on so many formats. John is recommending Jurassic Park, the 3D version.
Yes,
as well
I
as
would
just
say
Jurassic
if you
Park
can't get
straight
your
up.
hands on the 3D version, you can still watch the original Jurassic Park. It's still
I
great.
have the
but
4K version and I haven't watched it yet.
If you watch, I'm kind of curious. Watch the 4K, watch the 3D. I don't know. The 3D version has some really cool bits to it. But yeah.
Cool. All right. And I recommended M3GAN. It's Amazon Prime has the theatrical and the unrated. I can't necessarily vouch for the unrated because I just watched the theatrical, but I don't,
Show your kids
it's
the
a dumb
unrated
whatever.
version.
So have
Watch the
fun.
theatrical.
I'm surprised, Ryan, that given both options, you would choose the theatrical version.
I want to see whatever the original version was, even if it isn't like the intended artist's vision per se.
Yeah.
Whatever was like the first version, I tend to want to watch.
You're telling me
first.
that if I got my hands on the television reels for The Astrologer, you'd never want to watch those, Ryan? You'd only watch the theatrical?
Well, if they were actually filmed first, maybe I would be interested.
We've got a pretty good variety of movies here this week. We got like a traditional big studio blockbuster, horror movie, and a
Batshit crazy
Nick Cage action film. It's a good
Hell
good
yeah.
variety of options.
Good spread of recommends for you.
Well, that's going to wrap us up. I have been your host, Ryan King, and joining us this week we have
John, now in 3D. Put on your glasses, kids.
God.
The schlock's coming right at you.
I was going to say the schlock, I could see it.
Oh my God.
And also
Michael Dixon, thanks for putting up with our bullshit.
In 3D.